Yep, it is Jordan. It is episode 45. Welcome to the Chocolate Croissants podcast. This episode is a solo performance, interview-wise, by Matthew J. Halpern, as he interviews his tour manager, and not only Periphery's tour manager, but tour manager of a bunch of bands in the past, including Dillinger Escape Plan, Animals as Leaders, Say Ocean, and more. His name is Matt Rosenblum, but if you know him well enough, you can call him Rosey, apparently. And I am fucking pissed that I missed this conversation, because listening to it, I think it's about an hour and a half. I've listened to well over an hour so far. I just see a lot of myself in Rosey. He is someone that I really identify with. He is someone that always had a passion in music, and not only that, but just a work ethic to find his way towards creating a career in music. He has done that. If you are a musician or really a creative of any kind, I highly recommend this episode for you. He really just puts the two things together that I think really boil down to having success, especially in a creative field, and that's work ethic and relationships. He seems to really have a solid understanding of these concepts and how to apply them in a genuine way. Matt, for many months, has been saying, yo, we got to get Rosey on the podcast. And we finally made it happen this past week. And it's a shame. Justin and I couldn't have done it. Justin had some emergency, I don't think surgery. His dog had some issue with a toenail. So shout out to the dog over there. And for me, I've just been knee deep, if that's the right term, in Ring of Honor work. It's been really, really rewarding, but that's kind of, I guess, what you sign up for when you try to take on a bunch of dream jobs all at once. But hey, I now produce commercials, and I saw 3 of them on TV for the first time. So that's something I never thought would be possible 5 months ago. Point being, if you're listening to this, whatever you have a vision for, and even if you don't have a vision, if you just have some sort of like general passion or feeling, like anything is fucking possible. I'm living proof of that, as is Justin, as is Matt, and as is Rosey, the episode 45 guest today. Very briefly, I want to give some love to our sponsor for this episode, Nata Tattoo. Hey, they came back. Good for them. And we're really, really appreciative of that. Nata Tattoo. So who are they? What are they? They are a certified, all-natural, all-vegan, and all-organic tattoo care brand. The Tattoo Care Kit, that's like the big thing at their website. And it covers all steps from how to treat and protect your fresh tattoos all the way to keeping them healthy and looking great even when they're fully healed. Matt can speak more poignantly to this, as he is a user of the Nata Tattoo products for his like vast array of tattoos all over his body. So whether you have existing tattoos or you're in the process of getting fresh ones, or know someone who is, hey, Valentine's Day is coming up, this is a perfect opportunity, we at Chocolate Croissants would recommend giving Nata Tattoo a try. And because you are a loyal Chocolate Croissants listener, they've been kind enough to hook you up with a 25% off discount code on, check it out, anything in their store. So how do you find the store? Go online, you can Google Nata Tattoo or visit the URL nat-a-tat and the number 2.com. Or more simply, just click the link in the episode description of your podcast app or browser right now. So you go to nata-tattoo.com, you check out the products, you get to the checkout cart, and you want to put in chocolate25. That is chocolate in all caps, followed by the numbers 2 and 5 at checkout, and you get 25% off anything in the store. They're also on social media at Nata Tattoo, the number 2. Check them out. We really have, been supported greatly by them, which is amazing. Justin and Matt first met them at a health expo many, many months ago, which is how the relationship started. And they had nothing but really amazing things to say about the company's founder, Christy, and just the company in general, including the products. So we highly recommend you checking Nata Tattoo out. Okay, everything I'll do on the back end of this episode, but for now, you will be enjoying episode 45 of the Chocolate Croissants podcast with Matt, Rosey, Rosenblum, with Matt Halpern. Enjoy.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. That'll give us the lineup. All right, so hi guys. I'm here with Matt Rosenblum, otherwise known as Rosey. For those that have the privilege to call him Matt, you can call him Rosey. Hi, Rosey.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me tonight.
Of course.
I got my tea. I'm ready to go, man. Yeah.
You're ready to go. That's good. So for those that are just tuning in, Matt is sort of a jack of all trades at this point in the music industry. He is a musician himself. He is a accomplished and well-known tour manager. He has done merch for tons of bands. He is managing bands outside of tour managing. You are running and managing venues. You're setting up stages. I mean, what did I miss?
My new one this year is festival production. That's my new one for 2018. So I'm just diving deeper and deeper in, man.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, you have a ton of experience, obviously, in music. And what I really wanted to try to accomplish today with our conversation was really just to tell your story, have you tell your story. Because a lot of our listeners are musicians or they want to work in music, and I think they can learn a ton from you. I have literally watched you evolve into the person you are today, both professionally and personally. And over the past, when did we start working together? In 2013?
It's been pretty much 5 solid years.
So 2013. So over the past 5 years, I've seen dramatic changes, again, not only personally but professionally. I mean, you've really upped your game, and I don't think there's any secret to that aside from you really taking it seriously and putting in serious work. So we can talk about that, but I think a good place to start the conversation for the listeners who really don't know you is to just kind of give some background on how you got into music in general, how you became interested in working in music or performing in music, and like what were some of those first jobs that got you on the path that you're on.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like it's been, probably much like yourself, it was something that was literally always in my life. I think when I was younger, in middle school and high school, I didn't really know what else to do besides music. Like that was what you did. You did music, like I played sports, and then I picked up a guitar and I was like, oh, I'm good. Like I'm going to do this, and you just kind of know, like you feel that when you're younger. And then as you go through high school and, you do all your projects and you're honing your craft and you're in bands and you're learning and everything. And then you're getting ready for the next chapter after that. And, a lot of people, they're like, well, I like this, so I'm going to go do this. I like this, but I'm going to go do this. And music is fun, but, people are usually, I think there's this stigma around it that people now so more than ever are like afraid to get into a career in music in one way or another. And that may be true for people who, only are dead set on one aspect of it. It might be a little more difficult, but if you've got like an open mind and you got the work ethic, there's no reason to be afraid of jumping into a career in music. Like it's about the drive. The education is one thing, but the drive and the passion, that's really what's going to take you to where you want to be. So I was doing the usual. I was playing in high school bands, and I was kind of like learning and doing everything like DIY. I don't know if a lot of people know, but I grew up in Jersey, so like all these bands, that are, I got to watch firsthand, a lot of these bands grow around, the scene. So I was a little young at the time, but, My Chemical Romance and Gaslight Anthem and Thursday and Dillinger Escape Plan and all these bands were, when I was younger, they were doing the small clubs, and then you go on and you check in a few years and they're doing, theaters or stadiums and all that. So it was just such a good place to be brought up around music, because there was so much drive. You're like, wow, did you hear about, so and so? They're doing this now, and you're like, well, shit, if they're doing it, I can do it, But when it came time to go to school, I didn't know what else to do. I literally was one of those people. If this is, if anyone out there is the same, you are not alone. I just didn't know anything else to do besides music. I was like, I don't know, if I don't do this, I don't know what's out there for me. I got to figure something out. So my parents were very, very supportive, and they're like, just go to school and do something. You can figure out whatever you want to do later. You got the drive. Go and do what you want to do. So I went to school, William Patterson in New Jersey. I got my degree in music management and emphasis in classical guitar performance. And school was, I'll say this for anyone debating if they want to go to, and granted, I'm not like a Berkeley dude. I'm not putting down Berkeley at all. It's, all these performance schools are amazing, but anyone who might not be a performer and they want to go for another aspect of the industry, go to school and learn all you can, soak it up. But there's no better experience than going out and doing, I don't know if I can swear on here, but doing the fucking thing, like if you want to, if you want to work at a label, like go to school, learn, and then as soon as you can, go start your own label or go work in a label as like an intern or something. If you want to, work in live music, go to your local venue or theater and just get whatever job you can. I started working for free. Like go out, work for free, and hone your craft and learn and just soak it all in. But not to digress too far yet, but so in school I was still playing, kind of cruised my way through college, and then got out and realized, okay, like everyone else does, they're like, what next? Let's do this.
Well, so let me ask you a question before we move on. Because there are people who I think struggle as creatives or as artists they wonder, and their parents wonder, like, is it worth it to go to school? And if so, what should I study? And my personal advice has always been, okay, let's say you're a drummer or you're a guitar player, if you can gig outside of school and take lessons outside of school, but you have an opportunity to go to school and learn another skill that could help you, I personally always encourage that. Like if you have the chance to go to college, unless you really want to go study music theory to become a teacher or something like that, like I always encourage people to go to school and learn another skill like music or general business or marketing or anything like that.
Oh, for sure.
So I mean, do you feel the same way that like if someone came to you and said, hey, I have a chance to go to school or I could go tour in a band, what do you recommend?
I mean, that is a loaded question. But
it's the question we get all the time.
It is, and there's really no one direct answer, is there? Like, there's a million variables involved in both, And what I would say now, like, honestly, I hate to be that dude. I don't want to discourage anyone from going to school, but like, if you got an opportunity and you got the passion, school's going to be there anytime. I know it doesn't get easier when you get older to go to school, but it's there. It's not going anywhere. You can, like, people in their late 20s or early 30s can go to school. You can get a degree, online if you needed to, or you could figure it out. But certain opportunities, I feel like, literally don't come along that often. And I'm glad you asked that, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately as I've just, and this isn't a whole nother topic too, but I've just started a new band, as you know. The whole, that side of music and grinding from the ground up is a young man's game. So if you're young and you're hungry and you've got an opportunity in front of you, I would honestly say, like, you go and do it, but you give 110%, and you do not give up for anything. Like, whatever is in your way, you have to strive through it. And you know what? You do it, and if it works out, great, keep going. If it doesn't, school's still there. Like, it's not going anywhere, But at the same time, if if someone's asking, and they've got these skills that can really be honed, otherwhere besides the road, then yeah, go to school. Don't not go to school because you might tour, or like your friends want to jump in the van and go, and you want to lose a lot of money and just have the experience. You can take a road trip. You can do like a summer tour. You don't need to put your life on pause for that stuff. So
yeah,
it's really
I think that was my question. Because there's people who will say, I'm really passionate, but there's no one else around me who's as passionate as me. And I'm young and I want to do this, but I don't know where to go, but I do have an opportunity to go to school and learn something. What do you suggest I do? And I always say, like, if you don't have this big opportunity in front of you and you're not willing to get up and move to a place where shit is happening, which a lot of people aren't. Like, a lot of people want to build something in their hometown. Then go to school and learn something that maybe you'll make connections, maybe you'll network, maybe you'll meet someone there. But I guess it's like you said, like, if you just want to hop in the van and have a good time, like, take a road trip.
Yeah. And it's kind of different now. Like, I feel like when we were younger, in the late 90s and early 2000s, like, it was a different time in the industry, and, bands out of high school were getting like cherry picked, and they were putting out these records that were, having huge success off the bat. And those guys they had that decision to make. Like, okay, I just graduated high school and my record is selling like thousands of copies a week. Like, what do we do? Like, and a lot of them chose to get in the van and go, and they're still doing music 10, 15, 20 years later because of it. And I respect that. But yeah, like you said, now, if you don't have that outlet, then you go to school and hone a craft. And, you just blew my mind with that notion that you can go and learn something that's going to help you. Maybe it's not direct, but even if it's indirect, if that's going to help you later on, then do it and learn now. And people will come. If you're talented and you're, a good person and you're able to reach out to other people, like, the word gets out. The internet is a vast place. You can, that will come later. Like, you focus on yourself and on your skills and your craft first, and then, then worry about all that later. You'll find people. They'll come to you even, if you've got like the drive and the skill, they'll be coming to you, and you can make that happen.
And, it's interesting you mentioned the internet, because obviously the internet is a great place to distribute your music and, post content and let people know what you do, from a creative perspective. But would you agree or disagree that the real relationships, the real network, and the real opportunities are built outside the internet? They're built in person.
Oh, for sure.
So
I agree with that 100%.
And that's kind of where I want to go with this, because I think a lot of people, from what I see, are scared to get out there. They're scared to have conversations. They get intimidated easily. They're not confident enough, in themselves. There's a lot of people that want to hide behind their phones or their computers, and then they're wondering why they can't build relationships. And they're even asking, like, well, how can I build a relationship with email? How can I build a relationship on Facebook? Well, I don't know if you can. I mean, to some degree, but like, if you really want to get out there, you got to do it in person, and that's what I've seen you do.
Yeah, it's all face to face. I don't know how to use the internet, dude. I think it's a great tool, and it's like literally blowing my mind how a lot of the models have changed now based on the internet. And I don't want to go too far off topic, but I think one of the negative sides is, people who are blowing up because of the internet, and then they do have these opportunities to get FaceTime with people, whether it be in the industry or an audience, or like on a tour with other bands and crew that are well seasoned, and they don't know what to do. They're not prepared, because all their success was based on the internet, and then they get out there and they just don't know. Like, no one's taught them those lessons, whether you learn them in school or whether you learn them, DIY road,
Well, and that's where I want to kind of get back to your story and the evolution, because I know that you built your career based off of brick and mortar opportunities and physical in real life opportunity. So you obviously went to school. Were you working while you were in school, or were you performing classical guitar while you were in school and performing in other bands?
Kind of all of the above. So I was, going through school, I was working. My real job was in the kitchen, as we always joke about this. Like, I spent my whole youth, like, waiting tables and, cooking in the kitchen and all this stuff.
How valuable is that, though?
Dude, it is so, it is, like, one of the best, at the time I was I always have, like, this love-hate relationship with my past in the food service industry, but the skills you learn, like, whether it's bartending or waiting tables or, like, even just working in a medium to high pressure kitchen or something, it's, like, invaluable. Yeah. And maybe that is a tip for someone who needs to learn to get in front of other people. Like, go, even if you end up quitting and if you need a job, go get a job as a waiter or a bartender and just see what it's like to interact with that many people under, not pressure, but, you're performing a job. It's like, try it out. There's your FaceTime. There's your practice getting FaceTime.
And you
have to talk to hundreds of strangers a night. Yeah.
Yeah, you could have 5 tables at once, and every single table has a different personality and a different kind of
right.
respond to you, and a different. It's just, you never know. It's like 2 people on a date are a lot different than a family.
It's like getting paid to be in a public speaking class. Yeah.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Okay, so you worked in the food industry, the service industry rather, when you were in school. Yeah. But when did you start really doing music?
It was around that, in terms of playing, I think it was about that time in college. I got the opportunity to join a band from New Jersey called The Banner, which was kind of mind-blowing for me at that age, because I was a fan. Like, that was a band that I saw, all through my youth, and getting to play with them, it was like the band where you learn all the shit that you need to know about being in a band, about, like, building some kind of rig, about writing songs, that are actually going to be put out on a record, or about, playing shows with bigger bands and learning etiquette or touring etiquette and stuff like that. So that was really kind of like the band that helped me cut my teeth, because they were all, they were great friends. They were all a little older than me. I was kind of able to just, like, soak in everything that they had done, and kind of see, how things should be done, maybe how they shouldn't be done, at that age. That was pretty invaluable. So I was playing with them, but it was kind of, at the time, a little inactive. So, I wanted to, this is kind of where I started work in college in the industry, because I just wanted a job. I was, a music management major. Honestly, like, not to say I'm not knocking college, but my college, unfortunately, did not challenge me enough, where I needed more. So I got an internship at a venue in New Jersey, about a 2,500 seat theater. And I just wanted in. I was like, I don't care. Like, I'll do literally anything. And they're like, okay, you want to intern? I'm like, come on in. First show is Leonard, or not Leonard. Yeah, it was Leonard Skinner. Yeah, in November of, like, 2009, I want to say, or something, 2008 or 9. Or so I interned there for months and did, like, literally, in show production, you've got, like, the hierarchy of positions. And, like, I would do anything, like, that intern level, man, like, whatever it was. I'd show up there first thing in the morning. I'd work, 13, 14-hour day, you, like, go home and then go, like, when's the next gig, So that's really where it all started, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, that's the work ethic right there. Like,
yeah.
That I see, you exhibit on a daily basis on tour. You're the first one up and you're the last one to bed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that was like cutting my teeth in, like, real deal production. It was a beautiful venue. It had, a big name. I don't know if we can, is it appropriate to name corporate names on it?
Sure.
It was at the time, it was a Bowery venue, which was later bought out by Live Nation.
Right.
Bowery Presents, which is now partnered with AEG on the East Coast, maybe nationwide, actually.
Yep.
For anyone who doesn't know, they were a big promoter and talent buyer on the East Coast. So that's really, the most important thing I could say, and then this goes back to what we spoke about earlier, if you want to learn, go do it I always say, go do it for free. Be willing to do it for free first, because people will not turn down free help. Most of the time, people will not turn down free help, even if it's manual labor. Like, you're willing to work for free and you got a good attitude, you're going to get work.
Yeah.
So do it for free and keep your eyes and your ears open at all times. Just literally soak it in, like shadow people, like whatever it is you want to do. If you're, into audio, like just listen to the guys on stage, listen to the production manager, listen to, anyone there. And you just kind of learn. If you're into the business side, listen to the general manager, listen to the house manager, and just soak it all in. And, I did that for a while, and eventually they started paying me, and there's your position. I got a job there, worked there, jumped around,
How did that happen? Like, what was the big transitional moment? And what was the transition from? Was it intern to what?
I was considered we called it a production assistant. It was kind of like one job wrapped up. I guess, in the most basic terms, it was a runner, but it was also like kind of assisting. Usually like on a bigger production, your runner is just in coordination with the tour manager. They send them out, whatever you need, they come back, send them out. And this was like a little more in depth where, I got to work with like the head of hospitality and learned as much from her. I'd hang out with the director of production and learn from him, and sit up, by the general manager's office and kind of just like listen and learn. But I guess, I'd call it a runner, starting at the bottom, runner and doing a house merch. It was kind of like those bigger productions. You have, these artists who, fly in or they don't travel with merch. So, they travel with merch, not a merch seller.
Right.
So, you get hired in, and I got to sell for guys like Al Green and, a bunch of like artists like that who might not necessarily have a seller on tour. They don't have a traditional crew,
Right.
So from there, the company, so the transition really was, hey, you did this for like the last 3 months for free. Like, you passed, Yeah.
And obviously you did good work. That, I think.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Well, that's it. That's how, if you don't do good work, you're not going to get asked back. Like, that's pretty quick, like it's a pretty small geographically, like in terms of production, it's like same thing with musicians, small circle. You know who the good players are, who the, players too that maybe aren't so good are. Like, it's the same deal in production. Like, if you're good, it's going to spread and people are going to want to hire you. So everything you do is kind of like a representation of yourself, I guess, if that makes sense. Everything from your attitude, how you talk to people, how you do your job, and people take notice of that.
So let me ask you a question. When is the right time in that scenario, as a intern or even as like the production assistant, when is the right time to ask questions about the job? Or is the best policy to just literally keep your mouth shut and keep your ears open?
Do you mean
like what if you like did you ever get 10 minutes with the GM or the production manager or the head of hospitality where like you just kind of went for it and asked, hey?
Oh, every chance you get, man. Like, I don't, a lot of people are shy about it, and you kind of play off, the personalities of the people you're asking. But for the most part, like, every chance you get, I don't care if I annoy someone, like, and if I have to come up and be like, hey, sorry, I'll even start off by saying like, hey, you got a few minutes? I got to annoy you with some questions because I need to learn, So I say every chance you get, like, if you just stay super quiet, listening is great, but you got to ask questions. If you're curious, unless you can get on Google and look up your answer, like, never be afraid to ask, at any level, I always, and even now, working with people under me, I always tell them, like, there's really no such thing as a stupid question. Like, I'd rather you come to me and ask, and we'll figure it out, rather than not being too scared to. Like, I feel like people tend to be afraid of looking stupid by asking questions, and I feel like you got to get rid of that shit. Like, you got to be like hey, I need to know. Let's figure this out. So, and you even say like, sorry, I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, this might be a dumb question, but I got to ask it because I truly don't know. So hopefully you can help me.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've had experience with that too. And I've seen, I've been around with you guys long enough, and I always see like, I love watching you guys do your clinics and, getting to interact with your fans and people, but I always get so frustrated when they're afraid to ask questions, and I see them and then they come up after and I'm like, yo, you got questions? Like, you don't be scared, man. Like, go ask, I don't care if there's like 100 people here. Like, no one's gonna laugh at you. Like, no one's gonna, think you're dumb. Like, ask,
Yeah.
That's to me, that's always how you learn. I got to learn everything the hard way too. So it's better now. I'm trying to learn in my older age that like, okay, let's figure this out before I do it the wrong way or the hard way. Yeah.
Yes. And it's funny. I was talking with Natalie, my girlfriend, earlier, just about how, if you don't ask, you don't get. Because there's a lot of things that I think I embarrass her sometimes in certain situations, but like I ask for things. I take it, I go the next step, or I take it to the next step in a situation where, someone else might not be like willing to just kind of ask the funny question or the dumb question or ask for the favor. But just as well as I do, like most of the time, if you ask, you'll probably get some variation of a yes.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? People always say, the term, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Yeah. Like I never subscribe to that shit. Like, I just think that's stupid because after the fact, like, then that person's pissed at you. If you need to ask for permission, that means you fucked up, and someone's not happy with you. So why not figure it out before it happens? I don't know. That's just me, though.
Well, no, I think you're right. I think it kind of depends on the scenario, too. Like, we know now after, I think specifically in touring, like, there's a big difference where you fall in the lineup on a tour that determines how you kind of fall in that area. It's like if you're the headliner, sure, maybe you can like ask for forgiveness, rather than permission. But if you're not the headliner, it's probably not a good idea to just go for it without asking, and
sure, and it's not going to do anything but piss everyone off,
Right. And I'm saying that because I've seen that. We both have seen that scenario so many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I always ask for something. What's the worst that's going to happen? Like someone says no. Okay. Well, then I'm back where I started, and I'm not wondering, could I have gotten, could I have leveled up in some way had I asked and kicked myself for not doing it versus asking and just simply knowing the answer? And it's like, okay, either yes or no.
Right. I will say there is like a line that there's a fine line that you got to draw. Like if you're in that position, like I was an intern, I just wanted to learn. No one was going to be like, oh, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know anything, because I didn't know anything. I was like 19 or something, like 20, But now, like as you get older and you get in a position, there's definitely a line where once you ask a certain amount of questions, it's like a red flag. It's like, okay, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, So you really, I think the other side of that coin, which is something I try to adopt myself and I recommend to everyone, is like, figure it out. You don't know it, don't cry, don't complain about it, don't go like asking a million other people. Like you sit there and you figure it out, and that's how you get the job done. And that's how you've seen me get many jobs done. It's like, you know what, I've never been in this situation, but we're gonna figure it out right now. Yeah, some tough situations too.
Yeah. It's funny, as we talk about it, I can't even think off the top of my head of like any specific one, but I feel like every day, at least on tour, there's a whole new set of challenges in a whole new venue with a whole new group of people, and you got a very minimal amount of time to solve problems. That is basically what your job is on tour. You are the head problem solver.
Pretty much, yeah. It's called just putting out fires,
Yeah, I mean, every day it's something different, and it's so rare that like you'll come on the bus at the end of the night and be like, that was the smoothest day ever.
Yeah, you know what? There's good and bad. You know, there's good days and bad days, and we tend to, you know, have way more smoother days than we do rough ones. But yeah, it's always going to be that situation. But you know, you just figure, what do you like? What's the alternative? Like, just be like, I quit. You know, there's too many problems. I quit. You know, then this isn't for you, basically. Like, and that's what I tell people who want to get, you know, like I told you earlier, like the biggest question, not to tangent off again, but biggest question I'm asked, you know, when I'm on tour is like, how do I do that job? Like, how do I get that job or this job or whatever? And, you know, it's so much more, I don't know what you would think the percentage is, but it's so much like personality involved in doing that job. Like, if you can't handle like pressure, if you don't want to have to make decisions all the time, if you don't want to have to, you know, do any of the factors that go into, you know, especially touring, then it maybe not for you, you know?
Well, and that's why I brought up the whole human interaction thing and getting out there and being around other people and physically putting yourself in the place of work, you know, because you need to be able to not only interact with people, but you need to actually have the right mindset, have the right kind of personality. And I'm not, by no means do any of us have the same personality, but there are similar traits across the board with people that are successful in this industry. And we see it time and time again. You know, the ones who are true professionals kind of all have that same kind of set of ethics, perhaps, is maybe the way to put it. But anyway, or values. But okay, so obviously, you know, you were working in a venue, you know, in town. At some point, you decided, I want to go on tour.
Oh, that was always the plan, you know, and like a lot of other musicians, I just wanted to tour. I was one of those guys, like, get me out of this town, get me on the road. Like, I wanted to see, I always felt like getting paid to, you know, to travel was like the biggest win in my life, you know?
But did you want to do it as a musician? Like,
oh,
performing?
Of course. Yes, absolutely. Like, there's no, and I still say to this day, and we'll probably get down to this a little further down the line, but, you know, not only playing music, you know, is so gratifying. It's so personally gratifying to everyone, you know. Getting paid to play music is like literally, there's nothing like it. Like, anyone I hope, and you know, I say this to everyone, like, I hope anyone who does it just like fucking cherishes that, because it's literally the best feeling. And, you know, mine was, albeit short-lived, but I know what it feels like on a smaller scale, and it's so amazing. But you know, I know a lot of musicians who, once their music career kind of peters off, they're like, you know, some of them want to stay in music, and some of them are just like, well, I'm going to go be a mechanic, you know, or I'm going to go do, and that's fine. Like, whatever your passion is, that's your passion. But to me, I was like, well, you know, if I'm not going to play music, like, I'm going to work in music, and I'll kind of tell you why. Not to get all sentimental, but like, when I was younger, going to, and I'm sure, you know, you were the same way, like, I was obsessed with going to a show, like going to see live music. I bought like the tickets the day they went on sale. I still have like a whole jar of my past show stubs, and like every day, like through high school, I was like, next week's the show, like 5 days to the show, 4 days to the show. And you know, as I got older, I was like, man, I want to be able to give that experience to other people. Like, that's where I get my passion from. It's like putting on this show and seeing, you know, whether it's a few hundred or a few thousand, or, you know, however many people are there, like, we're giving them an experience. Like, we're giving them an escape from whatever bullshit they have going on during the day or in their life. They are paying money to come see, you know, these people play and kind of just escape from fucking reality, you know. And that's like the best feeling to me, is like seeing people just stoked for just like a few hours a night, just like that. We made their month, you know. We made however long they've been waiting for that show. We gave them that experience. So I love that experience so much as a kid that I was like, well, if I can't play giving people that experience, I at least want to work and still be a part of the team that gives this experience, you know?
Yes. Was there a definitive point where you decided that or whether something happened or whatever the catalyst was that you transitioned from, well, if I can't play guitar and tour, I'm going to work. Like, what happened, or was there an experience, or was it just timing? Like, look, I need to get out of here, so this is what's available right now.
It was a little of both, you know, and not to jump too much in like the wide array of jobs I've had. I don't want to call them professions, but you know, I spent a few years of my life like jumping around to different jobs, all still while working in music, but you know, I tried some different things out, and I was working these jobs, and I was like, man, this is so not for me. Like, I can't punch the clock in like this 9 to 5. And I worked a lot in sales, which anyone who's listening who might be in sales knows that it's very, very soul crushing. That's another great, besides being a server, if you want experience, especially with rejection and failure, get yourself a job in sales, you know, because that shit is soul crushing.
Yeah.
So I was playing in the Banner, and we were kind of, you know, on and off with stuff, and, you know, we'd, you know, playing around locally. I think we did, my last tour with them was in 2013 or 14. But pretty much I knew I wanted to tour full time, and I knew that if I wanted to be on the road and I wanted to start making money, like, this is the avenue to do it. So that's kind of what I did. And that's kind of what happened. You know, really the start of that was Summer Slaughter 2012 or 13 when I met you guys, was the start of me going full time, talking 10 months out of the year on tour. So
right. So what was that year like for you? Like, who were you out with? What were you doing?
Well, kind of like to jump back a little bit, I'll say this to anyone who wants to get into touring. You get, like everything else I said, you got to be willing to cut your teeth, and you got to be willing to eat a lot of shit. Excuse my language. I'm going to try to stop swearing on your podcast.
You can curse as much as you want. I don't know if you saw Mark's episode when he came on. He's like, "Can I say fuck?"
Just right off the bat.
Or cock, or I don't know. But yes, you can say whatever you want. I mean, I had Bill do a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
that was a great podcast. I couldn't believe it. Literally blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So where were we? Oh yeah, into touring. Anyone who wants to start touring, you gotta eat shit. You gotta cut your teeth. You know, unless like myself, like I had no connections. Like I was just a dude in Jersey. Like I didn't have any relatives. Like I didn't have anyone in my family or any of my friends. Like weren't really doing anything. And I realized like, I got to find something to get out there, you know? And I was doing like little runs here and there, like playing, and I was still working at venues. You know, I had jumped up at this point, and I was doing gigs at like Giant Stadium, which is now MetLife Stadium or Prudential Center. And I like telling this story because it gives people like kind of a realization of what happens. I got my first tour. I'm not going to name the artist, but I got my first tour with like a big time artist from the DC area. And I got fired the day before the tour. And I'm not going to name who it is, but I was booked to sell merch for a band on a 6-week national tour. And then the day before, you know, I called them up like, hey, you know, because it was started on the East Coast, and like, hey, ready to go. And they were like, why don't you take a seat over there? You know, like, we need to talk about this. And I got fired, and that like literally, I didn't know what to do. I got fired before I even started. Like, I was like, This was it. This was like the big start. Like, now what do I do? You know? And I dove into that, like, you know, that dark place, and I went back to show production, and I reared up that summer. You know, I was busting ass all spring, and that summer that I met you guys, a friend of mine was on the tour, who I actually owe a lot to. So Jesse, if you're listening, you know, thank you. He was on the tour, and I forget why, but he dropped off for one reason or another. And we were talking on Facebook, and I was like, dude, give me that gig. You know, I'll never forget. I was at the Hudson Pier in New York City, working a gig, and I was talking to this band, and they were like, yep, it's yours if you want. It pays nothing. But you can do it, you know, if you want to do it.
Yeah.
And I took it. Yeah. And that was on that Slaughter. So my first gig was with the Ocean from Europe, so Robin, thank you as well for, giving this guy the opportunity. So I started there, and, when you first start out, it's so hard. Like, you do that tour and you have a great time and maybe you make a few bucks and everything. And then you come home and what do? Like there's literally like, I had the same thing. It was like, just like I finished college again. I came home and I was like, okay, I want to go back out. Like, how do I do that?
Right.
So luckily from that tour, if I can say anything to someone starting out on a tour, it'd be everyone is watching you at all times, whether you think they are or not. Everyone is on there. Like I said, it's a small circle, no matter what genre you're working in. So if you're acting like a clown, people are going to notice. And if you're busting your ass, people are going to notice. And I knew from the start, I was like, I'm in this to work. Like, I never gave a shit about like all that partying or any of that. People treat tour like a vacation. And if you want to treat it like a vacation, it's going to end pretty quick. But if you want to treat it like a job and a career, you can go really far. So I was working on that tour for free and just busting ass every day, came in with the best attitude. And dude, we were middle of the bill. Like,
right.
We would roll in, and I was doing everything for those guys, like driving the van. I would drive the van all the way in, then set up merch, sell merch, and then wait for the guys to be ready and then drive overnight to the next city and do the same thing, running on like 3 hours of sleep, whatever. And every day I didn't care. I showed up, why? Because I was doing the thing, man. I showed up to those venues every day, like, hey man, oh my merch spot sucks today. Okay, whatever, And that's how I ended up meeting Jeff Holcomb, who, by the way, has a fantastic, if you guys haven't heard the Jeff Holcomb podcast on Chocolate Croissants, you are missing out, because that is literally one of my favorites, to listen to. And I was thinking about it before. I think not only is Jeff's story great, but does he not have a great voice in terms of like listening? Dude, it was his voice was like so soothing, I was just like lounging listening to that podcast. Yeah, it's so good. So luckily me and Jeff became friends, and he's, kind of the one who brought me in with you guys. So thank you, Jeff, but I didn't know any of you guys. It wasn't like we weren't homies or we didn't, hang out every day. You guys needed crew, and Jeff said, hey, this guy busts ass and he's a good dude and let's bring him on, Yeah,
and it's funny, you're right. I mean, everybody does watch. I don't even think I met you on that tour. Like,
no.
Like we were just on different schedules. Like, I don't even remember where we were in the bill, but I know that we were on different schedules and doing different things. You were at merch all day. I was, in performing in one of the bands, so we didn't meet. But I did see you every day, loading in, loading out. I did see you interacting with Jeff. I remember seeing you like carrying the like the big like I don't know what they're called, but the white like fence things that you hang.
Oh, the racks. Yeah, the rack.
Yes, the merch racks. I did see you carrying those all the time, and I don't know. I think everybody noticed you, but it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't like, oh, okay, cool. That's Rosey. I didn't know you at all. Like we did not meet. And you're right, Jeff, for the next tour, which was, I don't even remember what tour that was. What was that?
That was this tour is personal, which was kind of like right after that.
So, right. Okay. So, but you were doing merch for us on that tour, right?
Yeah.
And Jeff
he jumped up to LD.
That's right. So that's when Jeff jumped up to lighting director, and then you started doing merch for us at the time.
Yeah.
Which was great because, we got to know you, obviously. What I loved about that was that, like, one, you had a background in sales. You were good with people. You were personable. You had a smile on your face every day. You were right on with the numbers. So you're right. Every bit of the profession, like every skill you needed for the profession was there. And it's interesting if you look back, by selling merch at those venues, you learned how to sell merch. By being an assistant, a production assistant, you learned about what is going on at the front and the back end of the venue. You learned how to settle merchandise. You learned the hustle of it, So I don't know. It just felt like you seamlessly integrated with us, and you didn't like. you didn't annoy anybody. You were straight and like to the point about things, and like you just blended in really, really well, you know. And then we also had our little side hustles, like, you know, like, look, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're in a band, you really don't make any money on tour. So you got to figure out other ways to do things. So whether that is like you and me selling used drumsticks that people want for memorabilia, or signed drum heads, or whatever it may be, you and I would figure out like our own deal, which if you were still selling, we would do. Now Stash and I obviously do that. But you know, I think it was interesting to see that you understood the whole thing. You understood the whole hustle.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we did how many tours together then with you doing merch? Was it just like, it was like only a couple?
It was a few. Yeah. I think after that, you guys took like a little break, and I went on to start working for Animals as Leaders. Right. And I spent close to probably like a year cycle with Dillinger Escape Plan after that, which is crazy because all three of you guys, you know, I started selling merch for each band and went on to tour manage each band.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Or do, you know, or whatever or guitar tech, or, you know, even LD or something. Like I think I was LD for Animals one summer. But yeah, regardless, like you know, a lot of people kind of like, I don't want to say put down or look down on like the merch position, but like that's like you're in, you know, man, that's one of the ins. If you are looking to get out and you maybe don't have like a technical skill, you're not good at audio or lighting or guitar teching, and you know, if you're personable and you're good with money, and you know, you can talk to people, like a lot of people a night, then there's your perfect in, and from there you learn whatever it is you want to do and go from there, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then, I mean, I remember very clearly we were, I think it was in 2015 was the first time you started tour managing us. Correct.
Yeah.
And that
was, hold on, I actually have the laminate like right here on my wall. I don't remember what tour that was, man.
Was it Escape from the Studio?
Escape from the Studio, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, it was Escape from the Studio. And that was the first tour where you were tour managing, and I think it all, I don't even remember like who said what first, but did you essentially say to Alex or to us or to management, like, hey, I want to tour manage? Give me a shot.
I think I'd mentioned it because I knew I wanted to do it. You know, I wanted to do it since I was a, you know, that was like one of the days when I was a kid and I didn't really have technical skills. I was like, if I'm not playing, I want to tour manage. And, you know, what's crazy is someone who I work with now, you know, if he ever listens, is Biggie, who you know too.
Yep.
And I saw him tour managing when I was a kid, man. Like if he came through with the Stone Pony with like Every Time I Die, or he did Bleeding Through and 18 Visions and everything, I was like, that's literally saw him and I was like, that's what I want to do. You know, met him, I was like, that's what I want to do. So I don't remember if I had talked to Alex or you guys or what happened, but it was kind of like a simultaneous, you know, you brought it up at the same time I was kind of asking about it, and it just worked out perfectly. And I actually really respect what you guys did, because you gave me, you trusted me basically. You're like, okay, let's see, like, here's your opportunity, let's see how you handle it, you know?
Yeah, well, we were self-tour managing up until that point. And like, or Alex, I mean, let me rephrase. Alex was tour managing us.
Yeah.
But it was very much a band effort. I mean, he was, at the end of the night, he was, you know, settling, and he was, you know, getting into the venue early and talking to the production people. But, you know, it was very much so a band kind of self-managed thing where different people in the band had different roles and different involvement in that. And it's to a degree, it is still like that up until a point. But
right.
But fast forward from 2015 to now, when we go on tour, it's like, tour management, Rosey, don't talk to us. We don't know shit. We don't want to. Yeah. We don't know anything.
But it's good, man. Like, you guys, you did it. Like, from your earlier days in touring, like, you know what it's like to tour without any crew, and you're like, okay, what, you are going to do this, and you're going to do this, and I'm going to do this, like.
But it's funny. At some point, we went from, being like, the band, one of the bands that was playing and tour managing, to literally being a bunch of musicians who were fucking babies.
Yeah, yeah, but that's kind of the goal, dude. Like, that's not to be a baby, but like, the goal is your job as the musician, man, is to focus on the drums, man. Your job is to focus on the set,
Right.
And it's good. Like, if you get to that point, as you succeed, if you can hire any crew as a band, that's like a huge accomplishment. That's an achievement, man. You've gotten to a point where you can physically pay someone else to do your job,
Yeah.
And it's not your job, but a job that you would normally have to do, that's taken away from what you're really there to focus on.
Oh man, I remember the first tour we did where finally we had, I think it was you, Jeff, and Alex was like, you guys are not loading anything. Don't touch the gear.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
Yeah.
You
worry about, you do your job on stage. We'll take care of everything else. And that's the goal, is to, make it so you don't like have to worry about anything except, the time that you're on stage.
Yeah. Which is a huge accomplishment, because as many young bands know and people listening, it's like when you do start touring for the first time, when you start playing any shows, you're doing everything. You're loading. You're tearing down. You're driving. I mean, I remember the first tour we had a bandwagon. And
blew your mind, right?
Yeah, we were still driving. Like me and Alex were still driving.
Yeah.
But still, yeah. I mean, it's all these huge milestones that you hit. But
yeah. But I think that's so. Would you agree that it's so important to have that as a musician, to like have to do all, like, eat all that shit and have to work your way up to it? So now, does it make you appreciate those things more?
Oh, 100%. I mean, personally, I probably have, between me, Alex, Marquides, and maybe Jake in the current lineup. I mean, we have the most driving hours, period. Like, I drove so much in those first couple years when we had the van and trailer, that now having a driver and a bus and being able to sleep at night and not worry about that is pretty amazing. And, you don't take it for granted. But at the same time, like, those were some of the best times touring that I still look back on, and like, I miss that. I miss certain aspects of that, because it was like the late night conversations driving, and you got your co-pilot. You're in the middle of, I don't know, New Mexico or Arizona, and the sky is fucking like gorgeous and bright. You can see every star in the sky, and it's just it's good memories, So,
it is, for sure. Yeah, I'll never forget like one of my first tours driving. Same deal. It's always through the desert. It's always like you're driving through the desert, and it's like that second or third shift, like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and the sun's coming up, and then you just have like this moment of clarity, and it's all okay. Those moments are crucial, and same thing with the camaraderie, like those overnight drives where you're just like having deep conversation just to get to the next city, like it's all things that, like, it just help build you, as a musician.
Yep. And it those personal relationships, it's funny. People who don't tour may have a hard time understanding this, but I consider myself in so many ways closer to you and Alex, Jeff, and the guys in the band than friends I've had my whole life. And I don't mean that as like a negative thing, because it's a different kind of closeness that I have with my friends who I've known forever.
Yeah.
But you got a lot of hours in small spaces together. We've probably spent more time together in a short period of time than I've spent over years with friends of mine that I've known my whole life.
Yeah. And it's very situational too. Like, I totally agree with you. It's not to put down people we've known for years, because I feel the same way, and you're in not only closed spaces, but you're kind of there, like you have the same, you're like sharing a goal almost, and you're there, to put something on together. And not only that, but you get through all those good times together, and you get through like, these laughably terrible times together. Like one of my memories one of my favorite memories with you guys is being in Asia at the airport, like, which I'm not going to get into detail on, but that I'll never forget that, like a day in my life, like, that experience.
Which country and which airport and which, I mean, like, seriously. Every one.
Man, I'm gonna say this, for anyone like who's starting a band, starting out traveling, the airport trips will be some of your most memorable experiences, mostly for bad, but we can look back and laugh at it now,
It's crazy. I mean, at the same time, and I don't want to, not to get sad, what I'm going to bring up, but like one of the most, I'll never ever forget when my dog Charlie passed away. That night, that 24 hours was like the worst 24 hours, 48 hours of my life. It was horrible.
Hell.
It was, I mean, you were there you saw the whole thing. And I've told the story before, but it happened while I was on this ferry overnight. It was like a 13-hour fucking ferry, and there was nothing I could do.
It's literally the worst situation.
It was awful. But I remember getting back in the bus and getting on the move, and that was the first time that, like, in that period of time that I was just like alone and by myself. And I remember getting into my bunk and just like losing it. Like I'd never, ever, ever lost it before. I mean, I'd never lost someone or something so close to me, and had no control over it. And you literally climbed in my bunk with me. And this, I'm not like no homo, but like you held me like a child. And I fucking, like, I'll never forget that, because at the time, I don't know, I guess that's what I needed, and that's what you felt you had to do. So the bond that you build in those situations is so much deeper than that of which you can build over a long period of time. When you go through things like that, which happens all the time with people who tour, like people at home go through things and you can't be there,
Yeah.
And you have to lean on the people that you are around, for that support system. And when you're part of the same family, and when you have the same goal, you no pun intended, you band together. You know? And that's a memory that I'll never ever forget. And that was a bonding moment between you and me. And really, that whole week, that whole rest of that tour was such a fond memory in so many ways, because everybody came together to support me in that rough time,
Yeah.
And it was just such a different experience that I didn't really expect, So anyway, but so now let's fast forward a bit. So, you've obviously worked with a ton of bands at this point. You've been tour managing us since 2015. Every tour we've been on, with the exception of a few little trips here and there, you've been like the fearless leader who has tackled everything head on and who has led the way. And you've worked with a ton of other bands in different capacities since, whether it's guitar teching, whether it is, didn't you do monitors, or weren't you doing like?
I wouldn't by any means call myself a monitor engineer, but if by monitors you mean, turning Tommy Rogers levels one way or another,
But you've been a drum tech. I mean,
yeah, yeah, for sure. Any kind of tech like that, drum tech, guitar tech, like any of that, But basically, like whatever the job was, and this goes back to what I said earlier. Like if someone was like, "Hey, there's this opportunity, there's this tour, but you have to know this," I wouldn't go. I feel like too many people go, "Oh, I don't do that." No, I don't do that. I can't do that. You can't. The answer is, oh, you know what? I'm going to figure that out. Oh, the tour's in 4 months. Guess what? I'm going to figure that out. And yes, I'm going to do it.
Right. Well, if you want that, if you want to get from point A to point B so badly, then you do whatever you need to do to get on that ship as it's moving.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. And that's not to say, like, if you absolutely in your heart don't want to do it, I'm not telling you to just do it for the sake of doing it. But someone in my situation, I rarely, like, did I say no to a tour,
Right.
It's like anything. Like, I took the Rollins approach, like, oh, do you want to go here for this pay? Yes. You have to do this job, and you get no sleep, and you have to ride in a van. Yes. When do we leave?
Right. Totally.
So in that regard, yeah, there's nothing you can't learn and figure out.
Okay. So here's a question. Obviously, and I would imagine, I know for a fact that you still have that mindset. Like, if you weren't, well, maybe not. And this is where we really catch each other up to speed on what's happening currently in our lives. At some point, the goal is not to just be ready to take whatever job gets thrown at you to get on tour. The goal is to be able to be decisive and in control over your career and the type of career you want.
Right. That's step phase 2, if you will.
Right. So based on the fact that we had a call today about completely separate business that you were never involved in prior to, as of late, you're obviously now getting into, I would imagine, that phase 2 where you are kind of deciding like what you want your career to be. Would you, so can you, I don't know if you want to, but like, one, am I right? And two, like, now at this point in 2018, when you look at what you're doing, do you finally feel like you're starting to create your own destiny in this business?
I would say yes. And, although I've been doing it, I may be like a different case subject than a lot of other people in the industry, because I know a lot, especially like touring guys or venue guys, like they do one job for a long time, and maybe you build up, and you go to the next step and the next step, and you're like, hey, I made it, and some guys don't. Some guys stay at the same level until they either get burnt out and they want to quit. I wanted to, literally, I never want to stop learning. Like I'm just that nature. Like I want to know as much as I can. I want to be like, like yourself, I love so many different aspects of the business that like I want to know as much as I can and be able to do as much as I can in many different fields. So I'm always still learning. Like this year for 2018, I just took a new job this year for a role that I've never had before. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've done it, not to this level, but the goal is to learn and be able to conquer that, and then just keep building, and then whatever it is you want to do, you can go, you have the knowledge and you can go do it, Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. I know like as a person, I'm all over the place. But I guess my point is there really a point where you stop learning? Like when do you get to that point where you're like, hey, I did this and I'm done, Well,
no, I mean, hopefully you never get to that point of learning. But I mean, I guess my question is, and even if it's not right now, what's the perfect career for you in your mind? Like if you could manufacture for yourself the perfect life, and it doesn't have to be one thing, but it can be a balance. Yeah. Like what is the perfect year look like for you? If you could, I know it's a loaded question, but what does the perfect year look like for you doing in this business?
I mean, if it was a while ago, I would have definitely said, if I could get to the level of like touring with bands that I love and I appreciate in that family atmosphere at a huge level, and I'm making good money, like that's all I need. Like that's, I'm happy with that. Now, I'm kind of at the point, things change, where I'm at with my fiance. Like I really want to, my goal, I guess, is to build something with her. I'm always about like, what can we do together? We work so well together. I kind of look at the big picture as like a successful year would be, what did we do? How much ass did we kick? Make some good money. Money is going to come and go. You make some good money, but like, are you proud of whatever you accomplished. Like, are you proud of the product? If it's a show you put on, are you proud of that show? If it's a tour you did, are you proud of that tour? If it's, if you're playing, are you proud of what you played? So my goal is can we look back at this year, next year, and look at all the shows and the touring we've done and be proud of it, especially that we did it, together. So
right.
I don't know. That is kind of vague answer to your question, but with so many.
It's a good answer because it speaks to who you are, and I think it speaks to where you come from too. It's not necessarily about like the specific jobs that you're doing in the moment. It's about the big picture. Did we provide a good experience for the people? Did we kick ass at doing that job, whatever it may be? Did the people we work with have a good experience too? And if you can look at that, great. And so as I mentioned to you before we started, there's a lot of questions that we get in the Chocolate Croissants Facebook group, which for those listening, if you're not familiar, you can check out the group at facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants. And I posted in there a couple of days ago that you would be the guest, and we got a whole bunch of questions. So I wanted to actually address one of those questions because you kind of touched on it. And I think it's an interesting one considering your situation. So the question comes from Bruce Palmer, who said, here's a quick one. What's your advice for maintaining a relationship while often being on the road? And, I think there's a lot of answers for most people who don't have the situation that you have, but maybe you could talk about your situation a little bit, as comfortable as you are doing so.
Right. And for sure, and I consider myself like one of the luckiest people in our line of work, because that is a good question. Bruce, was it?
Yes, Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce. Yeah, that is a great question, and one that I think a lot of guys, especially who work, guys and gals who work on tour, it's an issue that they deal with the most. And kind of to loosely answer your question first, I feel like you 100% have to be on the same page with your partner. I feel like that's where things really fall apart. You have to have an understanding, of each other and what you do and how it is. And you have to look at your goals too, like maybe if you don't really want to work and don't really want to tour, and you're more invested in your girlfriend, then find another job. Maybe you come off the road, but if you're dead set, and you just want to get out there and work, you have to be on the same page. You have to trust each other. You have to be able to commit to each other, and I know that's all like, maybe there's no real secret is what I'm trying to say. It's like the fundamentals of a relationship, but it's so much harder,
Sure.
And, it's crazy. Like I said, I feel like the luckiest person because, as I met my fiance on tour, and we both, we still work together to this day. And it's just like the best thing. She's literally not only the best thing that's ever happened to me, but the fact that we completely understand each other and we're always on the same page and we just want to see each other succeed. Those are qualities that, that make it so much like more fulfilling, so to speak,
For sure.
So it's a tough question to really answer because it sounds easy, it's like, well, you got to trust each other, you got to respect each other. You have to respect, boundaries, and you have to, have great communication and all of that. But at the end of the day, like if it's going to fall apart, it's because, it just is.
Right.
So how would you feel that?
No, I think I don't want to be cliche, but yes, you just have to have great communication. I think you have to set expectations. For me, something that was awesome with my relationship on this last tour that we did was being able to bring Natalie out on the road and show her what we do day in and day out, because it demystified a lot of the questions that I think most people in a relationship with someone who tour may have about the day-to-day lifestyle. So having that experience where I can say, look, this is really what it's like. It's not just like, as you said, it's not a vacation. It is fucking hard work, and everybody does their part to put on that show. And starts early in the morning and it goes late at night, and it's a hard job, and everybody on that level, on the level that we're touring at, takes it very seriously. So, communicating, bringing that person into the fold, letting them see what's going on, I think that's a huge piece of it. And then, of course, all the things you said, being respectful of the relationship, having your boundaries, wanting each other to succeed. That's what it's about, and hopefully you can be with somebody who respects what you do, as you said. So
Right. And I think it all goes back to like just being on the same page, and pretty quick, like if you're not on the same page in a relationship, if there's these like issues that reoccur and really make you question things, you're not on the same page, and you need to either get on the same page one way or another, whether it's, you changing, what you do, or you changing your relationship,
Yep.
But it's never easy. It's never, it's tough. It's tough for, for everyone.
Definitely. And at the end of the day, I think what you're saying, and kind of to shift gears slightly, you can do this and you can have a fulfilling life. You have found happiness in your relationship. You found happiness in your career. You've absolutely worked your ass off doing what you do, but you're doing it on your own terms because it's exactly what you want to be doing. And that, in your eyes, and I think hopefully in a lot of people who do this job, that in their eyes, that is success. And success is different for everybody. I think if you have these lofty goals of being a musician and making millions and millions of dollars, living in the big house with the fast cars and the hot chicks and all this crap, like if that's what you want to do through music, like, good luck.
Good luck to you. Yeah.
Because the kind of touring that we do and the kind of work that we do doesn't really, it's just not that, that's not reality. It's just not, that's not what you should be striving for. You should be working because you love your job. And willing to work your ass off because you love what you're doing, I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it for sure does, and how you can tell, in your heart, like if what's not for you and what's for you, and that corny phrase, like, if you do what you love, you never are actually working, but I feel that way, man. Like when I'm out, with you guys, like, and it's like a family atmosphere, it doesn't even like all the work and all the stuff, like it doesn't really feel like work because I love it so much. So, like pretty quick when you get out there, if it's for you or not, in any job, whether it's on tour or not, you can pretty much figure out like, okay, this is not for me. I got to figure something out. Or, when the passion's there, it's just there,
Yep, definitely. So I want to dig into a couple other questions here from the group. Let's see. Tyler Capelli is asking, have you noticed a universal discipline or school of thought that quote unquote successful artists or individuals seem to share and identify with, either personally or professionally, in this line of work?
I think we actually touched on a lot of that earlier, like to me, and I know I don't want to sound too redundant, but anyone successful at any facet of this music industry is they have drive. They drive, they have passion. They're not afraid. My father-in-law always says you can't be afraid to step up to the plate, and take a swing. Right. And I think that kind of sums it up. Like anyone who is where they are, they got up to the plate and they took a swing, so you can't be afraid to do that. And you notice like that's for the most part the trait that goes around. And yeah, there might be some people, what's the word that they used to say in the industry, like nepotism, something about like, nepotism running rampant or something like that. I don't know. But, you'll run into that too, where there's people just like there because they're there,
Right.
But for the most part, anyone you look at someone and those are the traits they have. Like they didn't sit on their ass, they didn't sit on their ass. They weren't afraid to take a risk, it's if you're afraid to take a risk, then this industry is not for you anyway. Sorry, that's harsh to say, but if you can't, if you're afraid to just like take a leap of faith and go get a job in sales, they're hiring. Trust me, I know they're hiring.
They're definitely hiring.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question.
I still want to touch on that, though. I'm curious what you think, because I almost touched on personality a little bit more, but I feel like that might be too broad, because we know people, who are successful, who have completely different, complete ends of the personality spectrum. So do you think that plays a part? And if so, what are those? What are the personality traits?
I mean, personality, everybody's different. You have to be able to be around people, and I said this before, because you're constantly working with others. So either you need to, I think there's two things, or really three. There's three combinations. Either you are fucking brilliant at your job, and that's good enough, and at the same time you just shut your mouth and you keep quiet and you really don't interact with people, but you show up every day on time, you're punctual, and you do your job really well. We know people that are like that on tour. They're not the most talkative, they're not the most friendly necessarily, but they are fucking good at what they do and they work hard. Then you have the people who have the combination of being amazing at their jobs and they're great to be around. And you couldn't ask for more. And then you have people who I think who do make it in the business. They may bounce around, whether it's different bands or different jobs, but the reason that they keep getting tours and keep getting taken out is because they are so easy and fun to be around, and they work hard. They may not be the best at their jobs, but they're learning, they're trying to get better, but they're great to be around. And we know tons of people that are like that. Maybe they're just starting off, and eventually they'll get to that point. And that's the thing. Like, that's where I think new people in the industry have a big opportunity. Even if you're not as great at the job itself, if you are awesome to be around, if you're just a good person, you're a good hang, you understand self-awareness, you understand common sense, I think you can get a job and then grow into the skill.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But if you're just starting out and you have an amazing skill, but you're a shithead, you're probably not going to get hired, no matter how good you are.
Yeah. We just watched that documentary on Netflix. I forget the name of it, but about all the guitar, like the musicians for hire. Mm-hmm. They go through all of them, some great musicians, and they touch on that so vividly. There's a million people who can do the job. It's like a lot of it is about being someone personable that, people want to be around, and that brings, a positive outlook, because if you're just like a crusty bitch, there's someone else who can do that job. I don't care what it is. There's someone, no one wants to be around you. No one's going to want to hire you.
Absolutely not. And, personal hygiene is always a good thing too.
Yeah. Smell good, guys. But it's deodorant. It's cheap. It's like $1 a stick or something.
Yeah. Do your best. Yeah. Take a shower.
Brush your teeth. Brush your teeth.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So, the question I was getting to before was from Iman, I think that's how you pronounce it, O'Connell. He asks, "Hey Matt, what are the biggest challenges to overcome when managing a band on tour?" And I think part of that is personalities, being able to manage ego and manage personality. Would you say that there is anything in particular that you've encountered more than anything else?
I would say the biggest challenge is being able to, I'd say, critical thinking, and being quick about it is the biggest challenge and the biggest personality trait to work on, because if you can think quick, it doesn't matter what the issue is. If you have a good, clean answer, pretty soon, then it's going to make the world a difference than if you let things kind of stew. But yeah, I'd say the same thing. Personality is, and like we touched on before, it's just, it's all putting out fires. But what I'm trying to touch on is how quickly can you make, critical decisions?
Right.
That's it. It's not one thing in particular. It's not because it could be anything. It could be, you start off the day with your tire blows out. You got to figure that out, and then you get to the venue and your hands have called out or something, or they're not capable of doing the job, and you've got a guitar player who doesn't feel good, and
a drummer who's calling you from home, who's got to fly out to a show, who also has food poisoning at the same time.
Food poisoning, flying out the day of the show,
right?
And then it's this and it's that, and then like maybe your front of house board blows up or anything. You just have to be able to literally like figure it out on the spot, and it's not one thing, it's like a million little things and how you handle them. And it's all just like working kind of under that pressure.
It's like dominoes, because not only do you have to handle the situation, but you have to manage the expectations, and then the impact that any one of those situations can have on multiple people that are involved. And we've seen this happen a million times, where like, something happens and it starts with you, and then it trickles down and somebody else hears about it, and then they freak out, and then they tell someone else. Next thing you know, it is like a giant tour problem. Like everybody on the tour is concerned about this one little thing that probably just didn't need to get, but that happens. I mean, it's how it is. It's I've seen that happen plenty of times. But
that happens, man. When you're on tour, like everyone wants to know what's happening at all times. So like little things can like snowball pretty quickly if you don't keep them contained. Dude, it's the fire, man. The fire is going to spread if you don't keep it contained. Right. So no matter what that fire is, like put it out pretty fucking quick, and you'll be okay.
Absolutely, I think that answers that question great, because that is the biggest challenge. Is there's always going to be fires. How do you put it out quickly without or with minimal damage, I should say. No, that's cool. And it's funny. So like, I mean, there's a bunch of questions here, but for the most part, I really do think that just naturally in our conversation, you answered most of them. People asking about how you got started in the business,
right.
what failures you may have endured,
so many.
I mean, it's
so many,
daily basis. But I mean, I think we talked about that stuff. As we should probably wrap up here. But as we wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to dig into or share about either what you're working on or whatever? I mean, is there anything else that you want to talk about that the Chocolate Croissants audience could benefit from that we haven't really touched on?
I don't know, man. Do I have anything to is this plug?
I mean, absolutely, yeah. By all means.
No, I don't have anything too much to plug, but I am working on, for anyone interested, a new musical project. So, anyone who's a musician who wants to work too, I know it's discouraging, but you can always play. Like you can always play no matter what, and you should never be discouraged if like you're younger and you're out of school and you're like, well, my band's not taking off. Like, so what do I do? So, and if you love music, like get a job in music and keep hammering at the music at the same time. I said on the last podcast I did, like in the core of it, and you can agree or disagree, but like, music is to be made with your friends. It's the thing you do with your friends. If you love it, it's going to come organically, and you're just going to do it. You're not going to care if you're getting paid or you don't do it. Bands to form a band just to like fold into the machine, it's not going to work. Because people are going to figure you out, and your heart's not going to be in it. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right.
So never stop. Yeah, never stop playing. So yeah, the band is called The View, The Life, which came about. I had a brief stint playing guitar for Senses Fail about probably a year and a half ago. And after I left, me and the guitar player just formed like this super tight, when you have someone that you play with and you just click so well.
Yes.
He was like that dude. There's been very few people like that in my life, like just a handful, like a few guys in Jersey, and then really like this dude Jason, like he gave me these demos after I left the band, and I just put it off and didn't want to, wanted nothing to do with it. And then I listened to him and I was like, oh my God, I was so stoked to get back into playing, because like when you go from playing and directly into not playing, you kind of go through like another dark period where you're like, oh, I guess I'll go back to tuning guitars for other people,
Yeah.
But I was so stoked. I was all rejuvenated, and we got together. He was out here in LA at the time, and I'm down here in Orange County. And I literally haven't had that much fun playing in a long time. When you just click with someone, and if you find that like that person or those people out there, like, just do it for no other reason than you just love to play. Like, just work with them because good things are going to happen. And we kind of developed this EP that we just put out that our friend Dez, Good Tiger, helped us, with the mix and master, and it came out and it was great. So you could check that out on anything: Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp. It's all free. We just did it to make some good tunes with our friends. So, and
it's called The View, The Life. Is it it's The View, comma, The Life.
Technically, The View, comma, The Life. It's a reference, and no one's really asked yet. And I kind of wanted to touch on this too. Not one person has asked where we got the name from.
So where is it from?
So, and it's been general positive response. No one's like questioned it. Maybe they just don't, they're being polite, maybe behind their back,
I think people are just, they stopped wondering why a band names a band what it is.
Well, there's no more, dude, there's no more, I'm convinced there's no more good band names out there.
Yeah.
They're taken, they're done, good luck. If you've got one, they should keep that in the bank, whatever you have to do to hold on to make a band, even if you're not ready yet, just to get the name, because there's bands that I love, and I'm not at all just like talking shit on them right now, but there's bands I love that took me forever to check out because their name was terrible,
Okay, so if you could pick one band with the best name, doesn't mean you have to like them, but just like the best fucking name.
There's a lot with the best name. There's a lot of good names out there, but they're already like, I don't know. Like, what do you think? Like, if you have just a good name is just like crisp and good. I think we've talked about this before.
There's two right now that stand out to me.
Okay.
Metallica.
Yeah. Yeah, you said that last time we had this. Yeah.
And Gojira.
Gojira is a good name. Yeah.
Mastodon.
I honestly think one of the best band names out there is Muse.
Oh, Muse is
literally dude. It's like they won on that front. Their band could suck and they'd still get away with it, but they're awesome. So
they won on every front.
yeah, that one is just perfect. And there's like other obscure ones that are pretty. Like I think Deftones is probably like one of the coolest names.
Yes.
As I'm looking up at my wall for some ideas here,
Yes.
But yeah, anyway, there's like this barrage of bands that are just like I can't figure out where they're getting the names from, and they're so good.
So,
do you want to do the other side of the coin?
Where does the View, the Life come from?
So I always wanted to reference like older punk bands, and I was aiming actually originally for a Nirvana reference somewhere. I wanted to sprinkle that in. Couldn't really do it successfully. Like it's been done. Couldn't do it. And one of my favorite bands for probably the last 10 years is a band from Massachusetts called Polar Bear Club, who to me was like one of the most underrated bands in the genre. Like they just did it all. Like their songs were a hit. They had like the punk rock ethics, like everything, just like the imagery, the lyrics, like they had it all. So they came out with an EP probably like in the mid 2000s called The View, The Life, and like just like the name and the lyrics to those songs just like stuck with me so hard that I just wanted to, it's really like an homage to them and what they've done as far as inspiring me. But no one's really asked. I guess we got away, it's not like that popular. We had a few other names we were messing around with, but you don't want to do anything too close, and it's not like you can really just name your band after a book or a movie anymore because
Goodfellas.
Casino.
All right. No, but that's great. I mean, at least there is a real good direct answer to that question. Because we both know that there are so many bands who just pick a name because it's like it makes sense, or it's like one word, or it's
well, yeah. Well, damn. So how about tables and chairs?
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like there's some just.
There probably is a band called Tables that I'm.
Dude, I guarantee there is.
Yeah,
You know?
they're definitely a jet band. But no, that's awesome. Oh man. Well, so what's next? Like, what is directly next for you right now?
This year, yeah, I don't know if I can really, talk too much about it because some of it's not announced, but I'm now working literally like with my entire family. I know I say literally too much, and Kelsey tells me I got to stop doing it, which is true.
But you're working with your family.
I do. I get to work with my family every day. I work with my, my soon-to-be wife and my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law and my father-in-law, and it's fantastic. We put on some of I did it again. Some of the coolest shows across the country in all different genres. So it's always something new and fresh, and it's awesome getting to work with people you love and respect. And I think it's like a rare thing, So I really feel like I've got like a rare. I got like I won in that sense.
And you know what I will say, and I'll not that my endorsement means anything, but it's certainly not nepotism. It's hard earned on your part, and I do think you should be proud of what you're accomplishing, because the opportunities that you're getting aren't coming for any other reason than the fact that you do consistent, good, hard work.
For sure.
I've seen it. I've seen it evolve to a point where, like, I remember when the first tour you tour managed us, I was like, I don't know if he's cut out for this. I'm not really sure. I know, like, I don't know. I was pretty cocky. Like,
that's because I wasn't a big enough dick at that point.
You were the nicest tour manager in the world, and now, I've definitely had enough gut checks of my own to knock me off my pedestal that I was on, which is a good thing, to be knocked down from that. And then two, you realize that you can sometimes be a dick, and it's awesome when you are. I love when you turn that on. Only when it's deserved. Like, when you need to be that way, like, it's great. But most of the time, you're not. Most of the time, you are even-keeled. You are calm and cool. Everybody loves to work with you. But I love that when it's time to not be nice, you now have the switch that you easily turn on.
You have to, and when you're young, and like to anyone who just gets like an entry-level job, like, you tread pretty lightly. You got to figure everything out. You got to figure out who you want to be and what, kind of person you want to be in that role, whatever role it is. And, as you get, you go on and you get better at it, you kind of figure out, and you watch other people, and you figure out what works and what kind of person you want to be. And that's kind of what, that was the same way. I started off, I treaded so lightly. It was like, no,
Well, you had us telling you every single day, hey, Rosey, you can be more mean. You can tell us no.
Then you kind of but I never wanted to be like the, ever since I was young. We have an awesome fucking job, man. We do what we love. Like, you shouldn't have to, and I know you do have to be a dick and you have to be mean sometimes, but like, dude, my first production manager when I was a kid. What are you laughing at me on? Because I'm going back into story. No, this is a story. I'll wrap it up.
I'm just laughing at, and I don't even think I saw this, but I remember, I think it was in San Francisco, right? Like, you're standing outside with Alex or somebody, and I don't even know the story, but apparently someone came up to you and asked a question, and you were just, I don't know. It was the end of the day, and you were just kind of like, I don't fucking know. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that. That was insane. I think that was like the Fillmore, the region in San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't know. I literally, it sounds terrible because I can't remember the context.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that and just being like, man, Rosey has toured.
Yeah, man. And when I started, I worked with a lot of people, from the New York, the New York production scene, and they're real, they're some of the best in the world, and they're real hard, and they're tough, tough people. And they were doing a show on 9/11 at the base of the towers. There was a pavilion down there, and they were putting on a show. And after that anytime there was an issue, and we're talking years later, they'd say, we're not curing cancer. We're putting on rock and roll shows, And I really feel like that really like hit me hard, thinking about people who were in that position, and who saw such tragic events like that. And you think like, that's why I never really lose my cool that much, because we're putting on rock and roll shows, man. We're like, we're pretty much living the dream.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's a fun game.
Yeah, you get the job done without an attitude, like people want to come in and, to anyone who thinks that like, oh, I got to go in and swing the dick around. It's like, yeah, you do have to do that sometimes, but like no one's going to want to work with you if you act like that,
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Well, that's awesome. Well, for me, that's a good place to wrap up. Unless, again, if there's something else that you want to talk about, we typically go about 90 minutes with these podcasts, because typically our listeners
that's about it. Yeah.
We learned our lesson with Bill.
If they listen after 5 minutes of hearing my annoying voice, then I'll be really impressed.
I'm used to hearing your voice. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But if you can, Rosey, when you get a chance, check out the Facebook group. Like I said, it's facebook.com/group/chocolate croissants. If you have time, which I know you're busy, join it, because people, like, you'll see a thread. I posted a picture of you. There's questions in there. If you want to, by all means, feel free to answer any of those questions. I bring that up because when I posted that you were going to be the guest, Misha and Jake, who are members of the group, hopped in and they were like, "We love Rosey. Rosey, woo, my Rosey." So they're in there too. But, I think people may want to ask you questions off the record, and that's a good place to do it. So if you have time, check it out. And then, otherwise, I know you and I will be in touch soon anyway, because there's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. And there always is. But is there anything else you want to hit?
No, that was it. That was good. That was a pleasure, man. Unless you want to keep riffing. I don't have any crazy I don't have any Bill stories. No,
it's okay.
Can't really go there.
No, we don't need to go. We have
make something up if you want.
No, people can go back and listen to the episode with Wild Bill Oberander anytime they want. No, and I should be able to. So for those who don't know, Rosey is out on the West Coast right outside Los Angeles, and then I'm on the East Coast in Baltimore, and I'm catching a flight at 6 a.m. tomorrow. So I should probably wind down. I've been getting the hairy eyeball from the lady for a little bit now. Like, let's wrap this up. So I'm going to go. But thank you, Rosey. I really appreciate it. I'll follow up with you just to get things going, and then with this episode, and then we'll talk soon for sure. But thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in. As always, we really appreciate all of you guys. If this is the first time listening to us, thank you. Just so you know, Rosey, this is episode 45. This is our 45th episode. So if you are a first-time listener, you can go back and listen to 44 other episodes if you want to, and we kind of cover all different kinds of topics and talk to all sorts of different kinds of people. But we're lucky to have some great connections and great friends and great guests who have been willing to share. And Rosey, you are no different. I think people will really take a lot away from what you said today. You are the perfect example of someone who didn't have the connections, who didn't know anyone, who grew up in just kind of a small town and then is now doing the job that you love. So it is possible, and I think people will be able to take that away. And I hope that through this conversation, we've both been able to extrapolate those points for them. So thank you for being so open and willing to share. I appreciate it. And thank you to Kels for lending us your time for an hour and a half. Awesome. Well, cool. All right. Well, Rosey, I will talk to you tomorrow or sometime this week, and then we'll go from there. But hey, I'm going to hit stop on this recording, but hang tight for a second and we'll say our goodbyes. But thank you very much, everybody, for listening in Chocolate Croissant Land. You'll hear the outro, our normal outro, in a second from either Jordan or Justin, and we will see you guys next week with episode 46. See ya.
Yes. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Matt. Jordan here once again, episode 45. This is the outro. I'm actually using the Rode NT-USB mic, Rode.com. This morning I did the intro from my apartment. Right now I'm doing it in between lessons from my music studio. And what a great episode. I'm saying that not having listened yet to the past or the last 30 minutes, but I'm looking forward to it. Trusting that from what I heard in the first hour, it'll be just as engaging and inspiring. Man, Rosey, what a guy. I really am now interested in meeting him and connecting with him. And again, regret not being part of the conversation. But the amazing thing is that the hour and a half that Matt and Rosey just recorded together will live forever on the internet, as will this intro and every word that comes out of my mouth right now. That is weird. Nata Tattoo, they are the sponsor this week. NAT-A-TAT and the number 2.com. Check them out. They have all kinds of great all organic, all natural products for your tattoo care. Chocolate 25, that's the checkout code, all caps, chocolate by the numbers, followed by the numbers 25 at checkout. You can probably tell I'm rushing through this. I got some more students coming in about 10 minutes. Nata Tattoo, chocolate 25, 25% off anything in their web store. On Instagram as well, at Nata Tattoo. Speaking of Instagram, the Chocolate Croissants Instagram page just passed 1,000 people, 1,000 followers, right? I guess that's what they use on Instagram. That is really cool. If you haven't followed us yet on Instagram, at Chocolate Croissants Podcast. That's where we are on Instagram. And hey, the three of us, Matt, Justin, and myself, are on Instagram as well. You can follow us at Matt Periphery, at Justin Blake Goodman, or at Jordan Beatwell. And the Facebook group, that's another thing too. Facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants. That is where you can engage with over 1,600, I think, people from all over the world. It's a private group. Asked to be included, we will accept you. And it's private for a reason, and that's so we can build a really engaging, inclusive, and supportive community. That is what we have been doing for the past 45 weeks. And as I often say, it has been the most rewarding part of this Chocolate Croissants project. Finally, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts from, you can subscribe to Chocolate Croissants. Just open up the search feature, type in Chocolate Croissants, and that is where you can subscribe to the Chocolate Croissants audio late Sunday night into early Monday morning. If you are asleep and connected to Wi-Fi, every episode will automatically download. That way, when you take the commute to work or you're listening in the gym or wherever you may be, you don't have to use your data to listen to each week's episode. Also, at iTunes or Apple Podcasts, you can rate and review. And I know I just gave you like 6 different call to actions. Hey, maybe choose 2. And if you can follow through with that, we would be very, very grateful. As always, we're grateful just for your attention, honestly. It is a privilege to have your attention for this episode or even every week. But also every day in the Facebook group. If you're enjoying what we're doing here, that is the way to engage with us and this culture and community every single day. Facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants. I'm going to stop pitching things to you, and I'll see you in the Facebook group. All right, we hope you have a great week. We will be back next Monday morning with episode 46. What we're going to do, I don't know. I'm going to be in Florida most of next week. I think Matt and Justin are going to be around in Baltimore. We'll figure something out, but we'll be in the Facebook group. We're on Instagram, and we will see you in your podcast app of choice, in your headphones, in your ears, next Monday morning with episode 46. Until then, thank you. We love you. And, in the Facebook group, I said I was going to do this really awkward bye-bye with our guest. I wasn't even on this episode. So, man, fuck me for that, right? But next time, I got you guys. That's our secret. But hey, I got a live mic now. And until then, bye-bye.